Most freelancers hate selling. It feels pushy, salesy, gross. But here's the thing. If you actually understand how web design works, you don't have to pitch anything. You just have a conversation. Hey there, I'm Mark Des Cotes, and in this episode of Resourceful Designer, we're going to change how you think about selling web design. Now, feel free to skip this episode if you don't offer web services to your clients, or stick around for the next 10-15 minutes, and maybe you'll learn something that you can possibly use in your print design business. Either way, I appreciate you for giving this episode a try. Now, the biggest mistake I see designers make when selling websites is treating web design like it's the same as web development. It's not. And the difference is everything when it comes to selling your services. Here's why that matters. Development is logical. Code either works or it doesn't. It's straightforward. But design is subjective. It's emotional. There's no one right answer. There are literally thousands of ways to design a website, and they can all be right. When a client looks at your design, their reaction depends on their experiences, their preferences, their gut feelings. So you can't sell design the way you sell development. You have to understand what's actually happening in the client's mind. Let me ask you something. When a client comes to you to ask for a website, what do you think they actually want? Now, most designers assume that they want a pretty design or a modern website or something that works well technically. But that's all surface level. Here's what the client actually wants, and I want you to really listen to this. Clients want to look better than their competitors. They want to look bigger. They want to look more expensive. They want to look more professional. They want to appear as if they deserve higher fees or rates or prices. They want to generate more leads or increase sales. They want to close deals faster. They want to create new opportunities without doing extra work. And in the process of creating that all for them, they want to feel listened to, valued, guided, and supported. And that's the stuff that matters to them. That's the emotional layer underneath the request for a website. And when you understand this, everything changes. Because now you're not arguing about drop shadows or font sizes. You're not getting stuck on the trivial details. You're solving real problems. Think about it this way. Your client doesn't care what the design looks like as long as it looks good. What they care about is what it can accomplish. They care about the results that it brings them. The more you focus on those intangible hopes and dreams, the outcomes, the easier selling your services becomes. Now, most freelance designers don't have a background in sales, so it's understandable that they get this part backwards. They think that decisions are logical, but they're not. Decisions are emotional first and logical second. Here's how coming to a decision actually happens. At first, you feel something. Your gut either says yes or no. And that happens through a conversation. Something clicks along the way. You either connect with the person you're talking to or you don't. You either want to buy from them or you don't. But it's your heart that makes that decision. Only then does your brain kick in, your rational mind. It shows up and tries to justify that emotional decision with logic. You look for facts. You convince yourself, yes, this is the smart choice, not just something that feels good. So when you're selling design like a website, you have to lead with the benefits that connect to the emotional needs of the clients. You help them make the decision with their heart. Then, once you get the feeling they're leaning your way, you back it up with features, you give them the logic they need. You make them feel smart and confident about their decision. Your job is to guide them through both, emotion first, logic second. Now let's talk about how this actually plays out in a real sales conversation. Now the biggest mistakes happen right at the start, and I see this constantly. Designers talk too much. You need to stop talking in a sales call. And I mean it. Stop talking. Your job in a sales conversation is not to talk. Your job is to ask questions and listen. You need to understand where your client is coming from. You need to know their specific hopes, their specific dreams, their specific challenges, their specific fears. That's the only way you can offer solutions that actually solve their problems. If you're doing all the talking, you can't learn any of that stuff. Plus, clients want to feel listened to. So this is your chance to actually listen. So ask questions, real questions, helpful questions, stuff that digs into what matters, and then be an active listener. And here's another trick: silence. Silence is okay. Actually, silence is uncomfortable, which is why we talk so much during sales calls. But you have to get uncomfortable with silence. Let that uncomfortable silence just sit there, and eventually the client will fill it on their own. They'll keep talking and they will tell you more. Your silence during a conversation is permission for them to go deeper. Now, this is a trick used by great interviewers. Check out David Letterman's My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. It's on Netflix, and it offers all the proof about silence. Letterman is a master of using silence to get more out of his guests. And sales calls are nothing more than an interview between you and your client. It's the same principle. Now, there are certain things you shouldn't do on sales calls. A sales call is not the place to talk about fonts or colors. That's for the design process, not the sales process. Don't worry about it yet. You worry about it only after the client hires you, when you're actually getting paid to worry about it. During the sales process, what you're actually selling is expertise, experience, a process, results. You're selling the ability to turn the client's vision into reality. So focus on hearing about their hopes, their dreams, their challenges, their obstacles, their expectations. Their favorite color isn't any of those things. A preferred font isn't any of those things. Skip all that stuff. Save those conversations for when you're actually designing. Right now, you're selling, you're identifying the problem. Your job is to get clients talking about what actually matters, and you need to ask the right questions. So let me give you a few questions that actually work. First, get them talking about their real situation. Tell me about your business. Why do you need this project done? How is not having this affecting your business? What will change if you get this completed? And then listen to what they say. There's pain in their current situation. That's why they're coming to you. And there's lost opportunity. And when you deliver, you're helping them solve that problem. That's your narrative. That's what you're there for. Now, there are, of course, some practical details that you need to know in order to give them an estimate. So include questions like, are there any constraints, budgets, timeline? Is their content ready? Do you have samples? Who else needs to be involved in decisions? And what are the requirements and the expectations? Get clarity on these things. You need this information to do your job of pricing their project properly. Then, after you've asked your questions and you've listened, it's time to confirm something important. You need to tell the client that you can help them. This is your moment to say something like, yes, we're a good fit for this project. Or, I'm genuinely excited about what we can do for you. Or, here's what I recommend. Or, this is your investment. Then stop talking. Wait and let them respond. Now, I know this is the hard part because, again, silence is uncomfortable, but this is critical. Let them say yes or let them express their concerns. Don't fill that silence with more selling. Just wait and let them continue. If your client has concerns, you need to be ready. You need to think one step ahead. If they're worried about not liking the final product, share your process. Show them how they'll have chances to give feedback along the way. make it clear that they are involved in the process. If they ask for how many revisions, explain how you handle additional work. Be clear about what's included and what may cost extra. And set expectations up front, but only if they ask about them. Otherwise, you can include this information in your contract or your intro packet. So only answer these questions if they ask. And if they're worried about how much work they will have to do in this project, break down the division of labor. Show them exactly what they need to do and what you'll handle. And if they're unsure about their part, then you can offer solutions to help. Maybe you bring in a copywriter. Maybe you handle the content gathering. Give them options. In fact, this is a perfect opportunity to use the 3-tiered pricing strategy I told you about in episode 145, where you can give them different options to choose from at different prices. Check out that episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 145 if you haven't listened to it. And if the client thinks that the whole thing is too expensive, remind them what they told you earlier. Remember when they said how not having this is affecting their business? Remember what they said would change when it was done? Connect that to actual numbers. Show them how your work will pay for itself, how it'll create revenue or save them time. You've already planted these seeds in the conversation. Now you're just watering those seeds. And then finally, when you both agree to move forward, here's where mindset matters. Shift how you think of this person. Once they agree to work with you, think of them as a partner, not a client. Now send them an agreement, and not some scary legal contract, an actual agreement to work, something that puts everything you talked about down in writing, everything you agreed to. Now this matters because it's easier to get stuff done with clients who have already agreed to work with you. It's easier to get referrals, it's easier to build better relationships that way, and it's easier to move forward onto the next steps. If your very first step after them saying yes is a 12-page legal contract, you're setting the wrong tone. You're immediately telling them that you don't trust them. Yes, contracts are important, but start with an agreement. Start with that partnership. Legal protection via a contract, that comes only after they've agreed to your price and have committed to working with you. Only then do you send the contract. So here's the truth about selling web design. It's problem solving. And that's it. Selling design is just identifying the problem, understanding the client's situation, connecting your ability to solve it, guiding them to a decision that feels right emotionally and makes sense logically. And when you change how you approach this, everything shifts. You become more effective, you close more projects, and of course, you make more money. So stop treating web design like a commodity. Recognize what it actually is. Recognize what it actually does for your clients. That's how you sell web design. That's how you build a sustainable design business. Now, if you're running a design business on your own, you know this stuff gets complicated. You're wearing a lot of hats, but understanding how to sell your work properly is one of the most important hats you wear. Now, if you found this helpful, please follow the podcast for more strategies and insights about running your design business. I share new content regularly about the business side of design, the stuff that actually moves the needle. Well, that's it for me. Thanks for listening. Stay creative.